Okay, so welcome to this first video for American Truck Simulator. I'm going to go ahead and record playing through a profile from the beginning for those who want to understand how the game works and how it operates. So the first thing that needs to happen once you're within the game, which is where we're at this point on the launch pad, is you click Manage Profiles. That will take you to the area where you can set up a new profile down here. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. You have to go ahead and name the profile, and so in this case I'm going to create something incredibly original, and we'll call it Trucker Bob. You then go ahead and select a photo. I tend to just pick this same guy down here. Preferred truck design. What this does within the game is it will default to the first dealership that the truck system offers you. So I tend to prefer Freightliners, International, and Western Star just because of the dashboard layout and the fact that you get more of a digital speedometer. So I'm going to go ahead and pick an International, and then the company logo. You can go ahead and just select anything you want. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a name, and then you set things up. The other thing I like to do to increase realism is I use some mods that basically function within the system and make improvements. So you go ahead and you move all the mods over that you have, and I use mods from someone called Jazzy Cat, who's been in the community for a long time, and you just need to make sure the ones that you want operating more frequently or more often are increased in priority, just so that the system overrides anything else. I've not seen any issue with these 8 that I tend to use, and again, there's a lot of mods available for how the game functions. It will change the economics of the game. You can also change a lot of the graphics beyond just the overlays. But what I tend to look for here is how do I just increase the realism of the game. So instead of having Walmart and Home Store, I'd like to have Home Depot and Walmart and FedEx and so forth. Same thing with the realistic corner shops. So these are the 8 I tend to use. So I'll go ahead and confirm that. The system will go ahead and get those attached. So there you go. So you can't really tell here that anything has happened, but at this point, the next thing you do is you just go ahead and you create. You then have to set up how you're going to control your truck. So I'll go back quickly. You can do keyboard, you can do mouse steering. When I played with a demo for the system, I did try keyboard. It's very difficult. It obviously also says it's the least precise form. It makes that very clear. For a lot of my testing, as I determined if I really enjoyed the game, I did mouse steering, but that gets very, very tedious and very, very difficult. And I would recommend against that if you're going to play longer. So I do have the steering wheel. So I'm going to use a controller. I pick simple automatic. You can buy a shifter to work with the game if you really want to up the accuracy, but I do not do that. So you'll notice here that for whatever reason the system defaults to use the clutch to drive forward and the accelerator to go in reverse, just clearly not what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and click Advanced Setup, and any settings in the system are changed this way. So you click on what you want to change and then you click the input. So the brake, I'm pressing the brake pedal. Clutch, I'm going to go ahead and press the clutch. Even though I'm using an automatic, I still configure it. Then I'll hit next. You can see now it says Joy Accelerator to drive forward, Joy Brake to reverse. So we finish the wizard and the game goes into the loading screen for the initial route that it's going to give you as a brand new trucker with an American Truck Simulator. We'll make some further changes once we get into the system and allow it to show us the opening cutscene once we determine where we're going to start. This content change detected is because of the mods that have been put into place. If you play without any mods, you won't see that. So you're going to have to select a headquarters. So as it says, we're going to select the city you want to start in, and I have all the areas available that are currently available within the game. So there are 9 states, all the way up to Washington. Wyoming's currently in the works. The best option that I've found to try to expand is to start somewhere where you have a good amount of location to explore within the middle of the map. You can really only select the large dots for headquarters locations because those are the ones that have shops within the game. So we'll go ahead and we'll click St. George in the bottom southwest corner of Utah. We'll confirm. Do we want to walk through the tutorial? I'm not going to do that at this point. For someone new to the game, certainly do that. It gives you some basic information, but nothing that we need to do within the video to see how the game operates. So at this point, it's going to go ahead and select an initial load for us as our first job within the system. So you can see we're going to be running empty pallets from St. George to Las Vegas, and we're going to get paid about $1,410 for that job. So we're going to wait for this to load here. While we do that, the other thing we're going to do once the cutscene happens before we take off is we're going to go in and we're going to do the initial setup options, which is going to consume the majority of this initial video. So here's the cutscene. So the cutscenes do change as far as scenery depending on where you start. So this is actually St. George within the game. So you can see, obviously, a little bit of the mountain country. Welcome to American Truck Simulator. You know, the chance to experience your dream job, driving a truck. Your own transportation company is now open for business, but sadly you lack the money to buy a truck. For now, you'll have to work for other companies as a driver for hire. You need to safely drive a load of empty pallets to Walmart dock in Las Vegas. The employer's provided a vehicle, and they will cover all the expenses. We'll talk about that more as we go through the videos. So you can see now we're placed within the environment. It reloads. This is standard. And unfortunately, I haven't found a way that you can set all the options prior to all of this happening. So as you'll see, some of the things I changed would probably be better to be changed earlier. So if you hit the escape key, that takes you to the main menu, the operating area of the system. So as you can see, you've kind of got some information here of you as the driver. You've got information for the company. You can see the game starts with $1,500. And then your main menu is really down here at the bottom. So you've got a job market, a world map. You can play streaming radio on the radio station, since I'm explaining what's happening, at least in the initial videos. I'm not going to do that maybe as we get along, and I just don't want to sit and talk for an hour really about nothing. We may just turn on music, and those who want to watch the gameplay can watch the gameplay, and so forth. So under options, that's where we want to go to begin with. So we'll start at the top. We'll go with graphics. This does come over from what has been set in the past, so I'm just double checking to make sure that I have everything as I normally like it. So to get a good frame rate, my computer's a little bit older, and my graphics card is also a little bit older. I've only got about 4 gigabytes of graphics RAM. If you get a card that has 6 gig or 8 gig, you can get a better option on these settings if you want to move things up, but I've truly felt that the game does a really great job even if you do things on the low setting. So initially you can just pick low, medium, high, or ultra, because I've made some changes that doesn't tell us where we're at, but typically I'm at the high setting. I've turned down the scaling a little bit. By default at high, it's 125%. The anti-aliasing is turned up a little bit. That tends to make the lines a little smoother, is what I've seen. The SSAO setting is the next one, and the top three are really the ones that are the most resource intensive for your computer. So if you do get the game and you decide that it's moving too slowly for you, or it's too choppy with the frame rate, those are really the things you want to set, and hopefully at least at 100% the game will run, and you really don't notice much of a difference. The next thing I do in audio, when I do play the radio, I like it to be a little louder than the rest of the things that are operating within the game, just so we can hear the music. And then voice navigation, which is just the voice and the GPS, I turn that up. I tend to move the truck engine noise down, just because it's not necessarily something that you can hear much over, but for now I'll actually leave it on for those who are new to the game and want to hear what things sound like. So I'm going to enable voice navigation. It's just one over the time that I've used. You can set a speed warning. I tend not to do that. There's nothing within the system here. So the other things we're going to get into now when we get into gameplay. What I tend to do is I've tested for quite a while, and I've figured out the fastest way to really level up a driver, which gives you the options to go ahead and get access to things in the game faster. So fatigue simulation, I do like to make sure that we have to stop and rest. Getting traffic offenses, I prefer to have long jobs, because that again helps you move quickly within the game. The fastest way to move is on experience, and distance of jobs is the largest determinant of experience. So the automatic parking dialog, if you're having trouble parking, allows you to just automatically park. You won't get any bonus XP for that, but it's important, especially as we do a special transport job. I'll turn off the heavy cargo warning screen. I understand the game well enough. And the other changes I tend to make is set the parking difficulty to skill parking, which is the hardest parking. If you leave it to the basics, you'll be asked every time you land. And then because I just am looking in this case to just drive, I'm going to turn off random road events and detours all the way down. We'll leave rain at the default. For realism, I tend to turn on time zones. Cutscenes aren't really that important, given that this is a trucking simulator. There aren't that many, and the videos and so forth that you do have, you can start automatically when you're at a viewpoint. And again, when we run across one of those, I'll explain those. The other thing I do is, because I don't want to make it too difficult, I do leave most of the things automatic. And then I change the Smart Cruise control. This only works when you have a retarder on the truck, to a tolerance of 0. This helps you avoid speeding tickets. Again, to help frame rate. Cabin accessory physics, you don't start out with any cabin accessories, but if you do have things hanging from the mirror on your dashboard, this helps. You'll have the hula girl jiggling on the dash and so forth if you want, but once you've realized I'm paying more attention to the road than I am what's in my cabin, you can turn those off and help with the frame rate a little bit. The rest of this then I tend to leave alone. So keys and buttons, as we talked about, the system remembers what I have set up, but as we did with the accelerator and the brake, if you want to change what the default is, for example, for the indicators, which I've done, you'll just click on this and then you'll activate the control that you want for that. So I've got all these set up on the steering wheel control that I have. Again, we've talked about the controls here. We've got things done, and then we won't worry about the online settings for now. So that gives us what we need to get going, and at that point we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish this first delivery. So I'm going to turn on the truck, change the settings so we can see the miles per hour, move the camera a little bit so we can see the driver's side mirror. You can, with the F2 key, toggle the mirrors that pop up. So since it's a challenge to drive and then use the mouse to kind of turn your head to look at the passenger side mirror, I tend to leave this way. I also then turn off the in-cabin dash to have the route advisor up, and also turn off anything that's extraneous so that we can see what's going on. Oh, and I did realize there's one other setting that I do like as we're exploring the map that helps tell which roads we've been on and which ones we haven't been on. So show navigation in the world and the job map is the setting there that we're looking for. So I apologize for not hitting that initially. And you'll see the red line now has gone away on the route advisor. So, and then it also shows the road is gray, which means that I haven't yet explored it. So when we go into the map, we can see where we're going. So again, we picked our headquarters in St. George, and we're going to deliver to the Las Vegas area. You can use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out on the map. You can also use the plus and minus. So you can see we're going to head south here and then go into Vegas. And as we go along, towns will be unlocked as they're discovered. And that's important because you cannot get a delivery, especially as a contract driver, until you have opened a town up. It just won't show up in the job market. So the faster we open up towns, the more options we're going to have. So with that, we're going to go ahead and pull away. And in this location, you can see to leave, we've got to turn around. So you can see Walmart on the wall there briefly. Again, and on my trailer in the mirror, that's some of the mods that we've got loaded provide that for us. Otherwise, we'd be here at Walmart. And again, just for realism and enjoyment, I tend to load everything with these mods. So we're going to pull out here. We'll take a look. You can hear the navigation. The X's there are basically invisible walls that you can't drive through. Obviously, you saw the AI cars did come out of there, so they are able to ignore those. But if you try to drive through those, you basically hit a wall and your vehicle will stop. So we've got a roundabout here. And it's telling us the second exit, so we're going to need to go on to I-15. And you can see how, as we explore the road, things turn yellow. So we're going to go ahead and just make sure we're clear. Turn on the cruise. Again, I've got the tolerance set at 5 miles per hour, so every time I hit the increase, it goes up 5. You can see the little 75 in the bottom right corner that shows me I've got my cruise set to 75 since the speed limit. Now that's sensors for the wait station. We'll see if it tells us. You can see we've got a green light, police officer passing us by, so we don't need to pull in. But if you do not pull in, it will give you a penalty if it asks you to do so. And in most cases, you will have to pull in. But once in a while, you get lucky. So again, the graphics are set basically at the high setting with a couple adjustments with the anti-aliasing turned up. The vegetation detail is also turned to the highest level possible. I've taken the scaling a little bit down. I just find this gives me the smoothest gameplay with the least amount of... Okay, we definitely don't want to run into the back of the police car there. You'll see the speed dropped is what happened there. I'm going to go ahead and try to pass him, but we got to be careful to only go 5 miles over or we'll get a speeding ticket, and certainly in our initial job out with only $1,500 in the bank, that would be painful. So sorry, going back to the graphics, those are really the only settings I've changed. I think the graphics look quite nice for what the level is. You can see things move pretty smoothly. You will notice later on in additional videos as we get up to Idaho and so forth, there are certain areas of the game that I've noticed the frame rate will drop. Basically, the truck sometimes freezes and it'll take a few seconds for everything to move again. Doesn't happen very often, and so that's really what you want to do when you're setting your different settings to just make sure that you're not overtaxing your PC, but getting the visuals that you want. So without the route navigation, you can't really tell how far you have to go, but you can hit the map key. By default, it's the M. I still have it set that way. You can see up here, up at the top, trip distance is 75. We've got about an hour and 18 minutes in game time, and you can see we've explored 0.13% of the map. So again, because I have all 9 states, all the added states that SCS offers in the game right now available, it takes quite a while to explore all the roads. And again, we'll talk about that as appropriate later. So you just hit the map key again, puts you right back in the truck. You continue driving, so obviously just make sure you're ready to take control of the vehicle again, whether it's steering wheel like I have, or get your hand back on the mouse, especially if you happen to hit the map when you're in the middle of a turn or something. Otherwise your truck will suddenly be going straight toward the guardrail or into oncoming traffic. So you can speed up a little bit as the speed is changed again, an increase now that we've gotten through the turny section of that road. You know, for those familiar with this area of the country, you'll see, you know, the game's pretty realistic. Makes you feel like you're there, and definitely part of what I enjoy about it is it's just very calming if you like to drive and you like to drive and look at scenery. The game does a great job of that.
Keep left.
Alright, so just kind of making sure I'm listening. So you can see now we've discovered Las Vegas. Given that we're in town, I'm not going to go ahead and pass these folks, because then I might have to dive back in to exit appropriately. Let me just check the map quickly to make sure I see where we're going. Alright, so we're heading down here to the Walmart. So given that we've got a little bit of distance to go, we may go ahead and actually speed up and pass some of these folks. Got someone coming up on the left. One of the mods I have increases the AI vehicle type substantially. I think the current Jazzy Cat mod has almost 300 different vehicles. I think the game comes with maybe 20 by default. So this just gives more variety and more current vehicles as well. So this is the problem. Sometimes the cars don't move over in time, and then you're struggling with that. So alright, we're gonna have to exit here, so I'm speeding quite a bit, as you can tell. Hopefully we won't run into a police officer. And the hotels, you hopefully saw them on the left as we pass by.
Keep right, and then exit right.
Okay, and you can see the red flag in the route advisor. That's where our drop-off point is. So
Keep right, and then turn right.
Okay, so we have to keep right and turn right, so we're exiting here. And especially the way I have the
And then turn right.
navigation set, you know, you're kind of, you really have to have the voice navigation. I was a little closer than I wanted. Game does let you turn right on red. Obviously, we got this van in the way, so we can't do that this time. But you know, and I'm sure over time we'll have accidents or we'll run into people. So rather than explain all the details in this first video, we'll deal with that later. That's probably one of the, and this sometimes happens too, which is quite frustrating, where the AI just stops for really no reason at all. So that was frustrating. Almost had an accident, which again, with starting out with no money,
and then turn right.
We want to avoid.
Turn right.
So yeah, there's a few quirks with the AI that are really annoying, but over time you get used to them, just like in any game or simulation. They do a great job, but not perfect.
Keep left, and then turn left. Turn left.
Alright, there we are. Walmart Distribution Center. And unfortunately, we've got to turn left and turn right really quick, so the challenge is to not get the trailer hung up. And we can see it looks like the drop-off point they want is behind the building, so we've got to make a bigger cut. Okay, so that's the automatic parking dialog. So we can see there on the ground, it shows where they want the trailer. So we've got to kind of plan out what we want to do here. I think I'm going to pass by and go ahead and reverse in once I've got the trailer kind of straightened out, rather than try to make a U-turn, which I sometimes do, and you know, sometimes will do, but I then tend to switch to the overhead camera view for reversing, just because it's easier. I don't have to move back and forth between the mirrors as much. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll get this first delivery done. It's a little short trailer, which the turning radius is much faster, so you've got to account for that. There are some great videos out on the internet already about, you know, how to learn to back up and so forth. Certainly, I am not a truck driver in real life, so you know, but those helped get me more familiar with the nuances here. But so if you are having more difficulty in the beginning, although I overdid that, but you know, if you have more difficulty when you're starting out, you know, don't feel bad. I was certainly not this good the first time I started playing ATS, and you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get close. When it turns green, you're good. And then, as you can see, you hit T. In this case, you can again remap any of the keys to detach, and then we'll get some results. So you can see, basically, we've delivered empty pallets from St. George to Las Vegas. We did excellent. We drove 125 miles, 2 hours and 18 minutes within the game, obviously. In real time, obviously, it's shorter information about how much fuel you consumed. And the reward, again, as you can see, the main reward in experience is how many miles we drove. That also determines the pay. And then, because this was basically more than a basic parking job, the lowest amount of XP you'll get is 25. The highest you typically get is 90. And so, you know, we didn't get very far here, but we did get far enough that we did level up, because you do start at level 0. So because we got over 200 XP, we've already gone up a level. So what will happen then is you can see we've got a skills point. Normally it will just pop this up right away. So because we're trying to level up quickly, and again, I've gone through this quite a bit, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add to long distance. And as you can see, normally, initially you're offered to drive no further than 250 miles. So the 125 miles we just drove is about half the distance we would have been able to drive. But this will now unlock up to 400%. And more importantly, we get some more money, which is the higher reward. But the bigger thing we're looking for is this 25% experience bonus for delivery distances longer than 250. So initially, what I'll be doing is driving the farthest I can, which will quickly mean that we will be getting to drives that are lengthy and that take an hour, hour and a half in real time. But that is our first load. So we'll go ahead and we'll apply that point. And at this point, we will wrap this up and we'll see you next time. Thank you.